Hi, this is David Johnson with Scale Model Guitars in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been working as a repair tech, luthier, and instructor for the last 20 years. Today we're going to go over techniques that you can do yourself to make any guitar play, feel, and sound better. Today we have this Squier Strat, and we are going to be swapping out the harness, swapping out the pickups. The thing about overseas guitars is that you're going to get a body and a neck that are good. You've got good quality. But what you're going to run into is that a lot of the electronics, the fretwork, the setup are things that you're probably going to need to improve if you want to sound really good. So it doesn't hurt to do this. We're going to be putting in Seymour Duncan single-coil sized humbucker JB Jr for Strat pickups. The stock pots for CTS, and we're going to be having a push-pull pot for a coil-split. And I'm also going to be putting in a nice new blade switch. So let's get started. I already removed the strings, removed the screws, and we're going to look inside this. And we're going to see what we've got. So it's standard Strat wiring, and what you're going to find in an overseas guitar, you're going to see the little dime-sized pots. You're going to see like kind of budget. I mean, these guitars are made to be student model instruments, so they're really intended just to kind of get you going. As you progress in your playing, you're probably going to want to sound better. And much like any other solid body electric guitar, most of your tone is coming from the pickups and your amp. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the knobs. We're going to strike everything, get it all out of there. The nice thing about Fender guitars that you're going to run into is a lot of the parts are interchangeable. I like to think of a Fender, it's kind of like a Lego. You can just change things out. It's very easy to do it. A lot of times you don't have to route. That's what's nice about these Duncan pickups, these mini hums, is that they will fit right in the plastic without any modification to the plastic or to the wood. Okay, now we have a clean slate. We have a new Pickguard. It already has shielding on the back of it, so that's a plus. We're going to let that ride. We're going to be upgrading the pots, the switch, the cap, the whole thing, the pickups. The pots are going to be CTS 500K. Now you might ask yourself, why 500K? 500K is the resistance of this potentiometer. All potentiometers have resistance. Historically, we mate a humbucker with a 500K pot, and we mate a single coil with 250K. Why is that? It sounds better, that's why. Typically, like offsets, like Jazzmasters, they've used 1 meg. Gibson has used 300K pots. You can mix and match as you get better at this, but historically, this is what we like to use. One thing of note is that these are the original pots. These are the little dime size that came out of the guitar. And if you'll notice, the shaft of that pot is going to fit like that. The new pots probably aren't going to fit. So what you're going to do is you're going to use a reamer. This goes really quick. We're just going to ream that out. You can get a reamer at any hardware store. And you see that reams out the plastic so the shaft of the pot will fit. So now the pot shafts actually fit. So once that's done, we're going to slam these down. I like to use lock washers and everything. You might notice on the bottom of the pot there's a little tab. That is for a Les Paul harness. Some guitars have that tab that utilize it. This one actually has little holes. We wouldn't use that in this, but that's kind of an example. What I like to do is I'll step it up. I'll sink a nut on the bottom, then the lock washer, then it goes through. Just like that. And we just want to load everything up. Okay, and this is the push-pull pot. That's going to go here. And we're going to show you what we use that for in just a little bit. Now that the pots are installed, the push-pull on tone, and I've got the two 500K CTS, other one on the other tone position, and that one on master volume position. I'm going to put the switch in. That is going to go here. And there's something that I need to check with the switch to kind of stay ahead of this. We always want to check to make sure that things fit, like for real fit. The limitation on Squier, just like with other overseas guitars, is there's like, it's US counterparts. A lot of those pieces will mate and will match up, meaning the switch will make the body route, the pots will make the body route, and the pickups will make it. But sometimes when you're going to an overseas, there might be something that doesn't fit. So we always want to check things. So I've got the guitar here. I'm going to slide that back over. The pickups, you want to make sure that they're going to make the route. See that? So I've got plenty of space. That one is going to make the route, but it's going to be very important for me to make sure that the wire is facing that way. If you notice, this is already routed for full-size humbuckers. This one I'm probably going to want to run, no, I'll run it that way. It'll make it because it's going to be like that. So I just want to make sure that the wire is actually going to make the route. I've got plenty of clearance there, as you can see. So that's going to be okay, but I want to check the guard because I just put a larger switch and larger pots in there. And what I want to do is just make sure, and I want to do this beforehand to make sure that the thing is actually going to fit. And if I look here, I can see the footprint of where the holes line up. And I've got plenty of clearance. I'm totally fine. Push-pull fits. That one's a deeper footprint than the others, so I'm cool. So now let's put the pickups in. And the advantage of these are humbuckers. They're meant to go direct replacement into a Strat sized and routed out guard. So I'm going to use my reamer because I noticed that the screws weren't quite making it. This is your best friend. So just widening those out a little bit so the screws will make it. So the screws press through. I'm going to sink these in. It's going to hold the screw in place. You could also use springs on this if you wanted to, instead of these like rubber gaskets. I actually prefer the rubber gaskets myself. There we go. Now the pickups can drop right in. And see how they make the route? The route of the plastic. Okay, now remember this one? That has to go in like that with the wire facing out this way. These Duncan humbuckers are embossed on the top. They have the name on the top. It's really nice and we can get that facing the same way. It's a better look. Okay, last one's going in. We're going to put volume here. And then tones go down. We want to make sure that the numbers are facing the same way. So when the pot is all the way up, the numbers are facing out like that. There we go. Is push-pull working? Yep. My numbers are facing the same way. So there you go. You have your new guard. So now we have to wire it. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to get these wires tied up so they can be out of my way. And for that, I've got these little mini zip ties. So I'm going to put one here down the middle. We're going to snip that. And if you'll notice the cavity, this is what I'm looking at. See how that moves down the middle? And then another wire. I've got a lot of room in here. What you don't want is to have a wire that crosses, like you land it like that, and there's a wire crossing you. Then you land your guard back down, you're going to see a bubble on the top. If you take care of that on the front side with these zip ties, it's going to take all the risk of that happening out of it. I'd just like the guard to slam down in one shot. Be nice and clean. So that will land like that, nice and clean. Grab a piece of tape, tape it out of our way. We don't want to burn it with the iron as this is going in. Okay, so now the next part is I'm going to find a wiring diagram. Now these are great. I always explain to my students that, like when you're learning guitar, you have staff notation. That for electronics work, that would be a schematic. But for the rest of us, like me, who does not know how to read music, I learned off tablature, tabs. And tabs for electronics work are wiring diagrams. So it actually shows a picture of the potentiometers, the switch, the pickups, and all of the contacts and the signal flow that we need to follow. This makes it very easy so anyone can get in there and start wiring up. So when I'm wiring these up, the thing to remember is, much like with an output jack, where I've got an in and an out, we're never turning the thing off. We're either sending signal to output or we're sending it to ground, never off. So the way a potentiometer works on a volume guitar, or on a volume pot, it works like this. So say I have a circle, and it's like that. And here I've got 3 pins. 1, 2, 3. You can see them right there, those 3 pins in the bottom of the potentiometer. The way that a pot works is this pin goes around, contacts the outside pin. The pin in the middle goes here, and it's connected to the wiper. The wiper is this. So all it is I'm saying how much of this, your output, is going to contact the input. If I turn it to this, it's going to be the whole thing. If I turn it down here and I connect this back to ground, then that is your ground. I'm sending all of it to output. Output or input, and that's what I'm doing here. The other way you can wire a pot is like a rheostat. This would be a tone knob. So it's the same thing. In and out, middle goes to the middle, and I've got a wiper. I can contact that, but I'm not using this lug. And all I'm doing is I'm sending this, your cap, to ground. So how much of this cap am I allowing to go to output via the volume knob, or via however I get it there? What a tone cap is, it's essentially a simple one knob EQ, and it's a function of whatever cap you put in there. So in this one, I'm going to wire this up with this orange drop. I'm going to wire it to that tone cap, right, or the tone pot right there. So what about pot values or cap values? There's historically we use a 0.047 microfarad cap with single coils, and we use a 0.022 microfarad cap with humbuckers. So I've got a couple of these variations here. That was a 47. I'm going to grab a 22 here. I like orange drops, sprayed caps a lot. They sound real silky. So the first 2 numbers in there, 22, would be 0.022 microfarad. If you look here, that's 47. This traditionally would sound better with single coils, but we're not doing single coils, we're doing humbuckers. So we're going to use the 22, and that will go on the tone cap, or the tone pot. So how do you wire or solder a volume pot? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a blade, and I'm going to put a couple notches right there. And then I'm going to bend this wire back to contact that point. So it goes like this, right? These two I'm going to leave flying where they are. I'm also going to score right there. Now why am I doing this? That is to get the solder to bite onto the pot casing. You don't have to do this if you're soldering at 750 degrees. It's sort of like brazing, but it does help. I want you to watch as I'm laying down some beads on here. Done. One of the mistakes you can make is to wire up a guitar with a gun that is not powerful enough. Like those little 25 watt guns. They're just not powerful enough to bite into metal. What we're doing here is point-to-point wiring. So again, looking at my diagram, I'm just hitting the pins that I need to hit. So now I'm just going back to my diagram. I'm just following. So all 4 of these, I'm just hitting everywhere that's going to need solder. Another important thing to remember is we don't blow. You don't do that. That's going to cause a cold solder joint. Let it die down on its own. Let it cool off. Okay, now I've got this push-pull pot that I need to get to. So I'm going to do the same thing. So right here and right here. Then I'm also going to hit the other side right there. So now I need to get all of my contacts. So the ground connections for those. If you'll notice, I'm not using a helping hands. I just kind of go for it. There, done. There's another way that you can connect the ground, and that is to do this trick. So you see that pin right there. I'm going to put this like so. That's going to rest. I'm going to hit this pin. There we go. Nice and clean. So if you want to see what I did there, I just connected that pin to pot casing right there. One and done. Now here, I'm going to need to do the same thing. On this side. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is right here. This is going to be staying ahead of my move that I'm going to need to make on the push-pull pot for the coil split. So if you'll notice, the bottom of this needs to go to ground. On this wiring, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sending 2 pickups to this. The way that a coil tap works is it's essentially a double pole, double throw switch, on switch, never on off, but on, sitting on the back of a potentiometer. In this case, a 500K because we're running humbuckers. So the way that this works is so down here I've got the pot. Sitting on top of that is my double pull, double pull, double throw switch. And I've got 6 pins on this thing. So when I push the pot out, there's a tab in there that's selecting these 4. When I push it in, I'm selecting these 4. The centers are always connected because it's an on-on. So I'm going to be sending one of the coils off of the humbuckers to the center lug, and I'm going to be sending this side to ground. So if I start, so say that's my humbucker, and say that I have norths and starts on each pickup. So I've got my north start, north finish, south start, south finish. Because you know what a humbucker is, it's 2 single coil pickups wired in series sharing the same magnet. So they have different polarities. Underneath the humbucker, there is one magnet under there. It's contacting both pickups. One's north, one's south. So if I send the north to the switch, and I send the north finish, the south finish, to the double pole, double throw pot, what I'm doing is I'm subtracting one of the coils. I'm just running the north coil, and that's it. I'm sending in, and then sending all of these others to ground. So I'm subtracting one of the coils. We don't want to, this is what we're doing here is a coil split. We don't want to confuse a coil split with a coil tap. A coil split is where you just remove one of the coils. A coil tap is where it's grabbing the copper inside the wind. You're just decreasing your output. That's a completely different thing. So we're doing a coil split. But it's important to remember that the thing is always on. And when this is down, when it's up, it's going to be one of the coils. When it's down, it's both. So now I need to get in here and do this. It's easier on the smaller pins to feed the wire through first and then just hit them really quick and you're done. And if you want to make it look nice and clean, see that wire coming out? If you take that, push that down, you can get a nice elegant look with the thing. Make it look like you care. And there you go. Okay, and that is ready to go. So we have ground contacts on the bottom. One of the coils will hit those, and the other will hit the switch. Now here in my diagram, because you have to remember that the bottom of this thing is one of the tone pots. So I'm going to hit that, these two pins on the outside there. Okay, now we have to do all of the connections inside. So let's take care of those. Okay, so now I've got the harness wired, and that would be this section here. So now that that's wired up, I triple check my connections, make sure I've done that correctly. You might notice too that I added a little piece of heat shrink on the tone cap. And the reason that I did that was as this metal crosses the pot casing to go to cap, this piece of metal contacts the casing. I don't want this to connect the metal to contact metal before it hits the pot casing at the end. It would short out the cap and it wouldn't do anything. So that's why I added the heat shrink there. The next step that we need to do is to connect the pickups to the switch and to the switch on the tone pot. So let's start with the neck pickup. I'm going to do this one first. So if you'll notice, these are 4-conductor wiring. So a lot of pickups have this. It is for coil splitting and coil tapping. There is a really great document that you can get off of Seymour Duncan, and it shows you all of the color codes for the main pickup makers. So we've got Duncan, DiMarzio, Gibson. Those would be your biggest. Duncan's color code, so all it shows you is where the north start, the north finish is, and the south finish and the south start is. So in each coil, each single coil, there are 2 of them, I've got a start and a finish. I need to know which wire goes where. I need to know where the start and the finish of each coil is in order for me to properly coil split it. So historically what we do, we're going to strip the wire back. So I've followed the lead. So this is my neck pickup. And if you look at the diagram, it's going to go to this lug, or that pin right there. It's going to go to there. And that is the north start. So I'm going to pull the wire here, strip it back. There it goes. And this exposes all of my wires. So if you'll notice, I've got red, white, black, and green. And the ones I'm going to need to pull together would be the green, which is the south start, and the bare wire, which is the ground wire. So these two are going to contact there. These two go together and are going to go to the push-pull pot, and this one goes up to switch. So I'm going to make the ground contact on the tone. So we're going to pull this back. There we go. Twist those together. And then I'm going to tin those together and connect it to the pot casing. And that sends the ground. These two go together. So if you look, it's the north finish and the south finish. That's your series link in the middle. If you ever do coil splitting, you're going to need to know which two go to the push-pull pot. And in this case, it'll be those two. And this is your black wire. This is the hot. That will be the north start. So then we're going to tin these wires. Like so. And then they go down. So remember, black is going to go here to the switch. The ground wire and the south start go to pot casing. And then this wire is going to go to either one of the middles on the double pole, double throw switch. Always looking for a way to get in. The one thing you want to be careful of whenever you're soldering is not to burn another wire. If I have a wire hanging out here and I'm working in there, you don't want to do that. See what will happen to you if you do that? That shaft of the soldering iron is very hot, so you need to make sure that that is clear wherever you're soldering. So this one, I'm going to pull right here. And done. So now the neck pickup is hooked up. So then I'm going to go to middle, and that'll be this one. On the middle pickup, I'm not going to connect that. I'm not going to coil split that pickup. So I'm going to have that contact here. So again, I pull the green and the bare wires out of the mix. Then I'm going to do something else too. The white and the red wires are going to get tucked back because they aren't getting sent to the push-pull pot. So I need them masked together and out of the way. But that is my series link because I'm not splitting the middle pickup. I'm only doing the neck and the bridge. On a double pole, double throw switch, that's kind of one of the advantages of that switch is that it is double pole. That means that I can hook two pickups up to it. Another thing I could do if I wanted to split all three of these coils, I could have push-pulls on every position. And then I could split each coil or each pickup independently, which would be really cool. But that's why a lot of people like to modify Stratocasters, because there's 3 knob positions and 1 switch. So it's more options. So now what I'm going to do, here's my series link. That is going to get tucked back. I'm going to put a piece of heat shrink over this whole thing. I'm going to get those wires out of my way. And again, super high tech. Make fun of me all you want. Every shop does it. Okay, and then this one is our middle. I've already tinned it. And then I'm also going to send this to the same contact point for ground here. And I'm going to cut that back because it's a little long. I don't want to get jumbled. There it goes. I didn't have enough flux on the tip. There we go. Then here I'm going to snip the excess off. Okay, there we go. And then the last one, double check my connection, bridge pickup. And these two will be the same. I'm getting really close to done now. So there's the grounds. I grab red and white. Those two go together. And then black goes to switch. Then again, this one goes here. To the other side, let me snip that down, it's a little long. To the other side of middle. And there we go. Snip my excess down here. And that's it. We got it. So that is going to sit like this. And you can see with the double pole, double throw switch how that's going to work. So when I click this out, I'm sending those 4 middle lugs, or those pins, so this side of the pins, 1, 2, to 3 and to these two, 3 and 4, that's going to send these to ground. When I'm in, I'm sending it to the circuit. I'm sending it to hot output. And that's how the coil split works. So now I just need to get it back in the guitar, and then I'm done. Okay, so now we have to reinstall our completed pickguard to the guitar. And what we're going to do is strip the wires. So this ground wire, this is the string ground. Every guitar with a passive system will have a string ground. And what this wire does is it contacts the base plate of the bridge. So when you're playing guitar, your hand hits that, it quiets it up. It helps to eliminate, but basically you become the human ground. So if your ground wire falls off your guitar, you won't be able to quiet it up, and you'll know something is wrong. So the white wire was the shield contact to the output jack, and the red is the hot output. So the string ground and the shield connection from output go together. So those get tinned. I'm going to snip the end off, make it nice and neat. And then what we're going to do is loop these over. There's a little trick with the Strat that you can do. Okay, so I'm going to have to do this. We have to do the dance. So that's going to need to go there, and this wire goes there. I've already tinned everything. So I'm going to prop that up on a pickup. This goes to middle. This goes to pot casing. And I've already tinned everything. So make sure that you're tinned. Lots of guitar repair, and working on them is finagling. Finding out which method works for you. Including propping it up with the solder. There you go. And with that, we have it. And I'm going to snip that off of there. And then that should, in theory, fit since I checked it ahead of time. So when I put a Strat guard back down, I want to make sure that none of the wires are landing on anything. And a great way to do that is to peel this off of there and have a look. And just make sure that you're not pinching a wire under the plastic, in between the plastic and the body routes. And I am good. So now I'm going to land a couple of screws on here. I'm just putting in 2 because I still need to test this thing to make sure that it works. Okay, so this goes in. Neck pickup, dead, dead. Bridge pickup, nothing, nothing. This one should be just middle. This should be this and this, nothing here. This, nothing here. This is the tone knob for the neck pickup. This is the tone knob for the middle pickup. And this should do nothing, this should do nothing. a lot of people like to have a tone control for the bridge pickup. There's a very easy way to do that. You can actually take the wire that came off of this pin, and if you connect it to that lug instead of this, see, because the pins jump across. So if you connect the wire to this pin instead of this, then you will have this be the tone knob for the bridge pickup. Or if you just add a jumper that jumps from this pin to this pin, this will be a tone knob for the middle and also the bridge when the bridge is soloed up. Okay, well, there we go. Wired up Stratocaster, coil split on the outside pickups, and we have CTS pots, push-pull, a brand new 5-way switch. Well, I hope we've had fun today.